Picture this. Imagine walking alone in the desert. The sun beats down on you, and all around you is sand as far as the eye can see. Suddenly, you see something strange, a bush on fire. Flames rage, but the branches don't burn. The fire keeps burning, yet nothing is consumed. And then, out of the blue, a voice calls your name. What would you do? Would you run in fear, or step closer? Well, that's exactly what happened to a man named Moses, except his experience was much more than a desert mirage. It was a moment where the ordinary met the divine, where a simple shepherd encountered God himself. In today's video, we'll explore the fascinating story of Moses and the burning bush, uncovering its deeper meaning and discovering how it continues to impact us today. So, without further ado, let's embark on this biblical journey together. Our story begins in the land of Midian, where Moses had fled after killing an Egyptian taskmaster who was mistreating Israelites. By this point, Moses wasn't a prince of Egypt anymore. He was a runaway. A man who once lived in Pharaoh's palace was now tending sheep in the wilderness of Midian. He was about 80 years old, forgotten by the world, living a quiet life. But God had not forgotten him. God was about to call him into one of the greatest missions in history, to lead his people out of slavery. Now, picture Moses at work, watching over his flock amidst the vastness of the desert. It's a solitary job, one that allows him to reflect on his past and contemplate his future. At 80 years old, his life seems to be winding down. He's far from the young, rebellious leader who once confronted Pharaoh about the Israelites' treatment. Time has passed, seasons have changed, and Moses feels the weight of years. Yet amidst this tranquility, his heart still yearns for something more, a sense of purpose, a glimpse of hope. Little did he know that his ordinary life was about to be transformed into something extraordinary. One day, as Moses led his sheep near Mount Horeb, he noticed something unusual. A bush was on fire, yet it was not being consumed. Intrigued, he decided to investigate. As he approached the bush, he heard God calling out to him. Startled, Moses followed the sound and found himself in the presence of a burning bush that seemed untouched by the flames. This was no ordinary bush, but a tangible manifestation of God's presence. Moses realized that he was standing on holy ground. Moses, upon hearing his name being called, exhibits curiosity and a sense of wonder. He is intrigued by the sight of a burning bush that doesn't burn up and feels compelled to investigate further. As he gets closer, the voice calls out to him again, creating a sense of anticipation and mystery. This is a pivotal moment for Moses. He's about to have a life-changing encounter with the divine. When Moses realized that God was calling him, he responded with reverence and obedience. He removed his sandals as a sign of respect and holiness. The command symbolized the need for reverence and the recognition that he was in the presence of something sacred. For us today, this teaches us to approach God with humility and reverence, acknowledging his holiness and our own need for cleansing. And as God revealed himself to Moses, he introduced himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, emphasizing his covenant relationship with the forefathers of the Israelites. This revelation signifies that God is not only a powerful deity, but also a personal and relational God who cares for his people throughout generations. As God spoke to Moses, he revealed his heart, a deep concern for his people who were enslaved in Egypt. God expressed his anguish over their suffering and affirmed that he had heard their cries. This compassion demonstrates God's empathy and his commitment to act on behalf of those who are oppressed and helpless. It's a reminder that God isn't indifferent to human suffering, but deeply cares about the well-being of his creation. Meanwhile, Moses, filled with awe and reverence, responded to God with humility and submission. He fell to his face in worship, recognizing God's greatness and his authority over his life. This response reflects a deep sense of surrender and devotion, as Moses acknowledges God's sovereignty and submits himself to God's will. It's a powerful example of how faith and trust in God should lead to humble submission and adoration. Yet despite God's clear call and instructions, Moses initially hesitated and expressed his doubts and fears to God. He questioned his own abilities and wondered why God had chosen him for this mission. These doubts revealed Moses' human side and his struggle to believe in himself. It's a reminder that we're not expected to have unwavering faith, but that it's okay to express our fears and uncertainties to God. In response to Moses' concerns, God reassured him by emphasizing his own presence and power. God stated that he would be with Moses and that Pharaoh would eventually let the Israelites go. These promises signify God's commitment to support and guide Moses throughout the journey. They serve as a source of comfort and encouragement for Moses, helping him overcome his doubts and fears. Then came one of the most significant moments in the story. God revealed his eternal name, Yahweh, which means I am who I am. This revelation emphasizes God's self-existence, timelessness, and faithfulness. It conveys the idea that God is the eternal source of being and that his promises are unwavering. This revelation signifies the nature of God and reinforces his reliability and commitment to his people. As the conversation continued, God provided Moses with further signs and reassurances, including the transformation of his staff into a serpent, his hand becoming leprous and then being healed, and water turning into blood. These miraculous demonstrations served as credentials for Moses, giving him confidence in performing the tasks God had assigned to him. They were a tangible display of God's power and a testament to the authenticity of his mission. Despite these signs, Moses continued to doubt his abilities and requested that God send someone else to deliver the Israelites. He felt inadequate and questioned his capacity to confront Pharaoh. In this moment, Moses demonstrates his humility and his desire to fulfill God's will, even if it meant stepping outside of his comfort zone. In response, God showed Moses that he had chosen his brother, Aaron, to assist him in delivering the message to Pharaoh. This provision of support and assistance highlights God's care and attention to Moses' concerns. It demonstrates that God doesn't expect us to do everything alone, but often equips and supports us according to our needs. Finally, God affirmed that he would be with Moses as they faced opposition from Pharaoh and the Egyptians. He promised that Moses and Aaron would perform signs and miracles before Pharaoh, which would serve as proof of God's power. These promises of divine support and visible miracles instilled courage and confidence in Moses, preparing him for the challenges ahead. After this life-changing encounter, Moses knew he couldn't go back to his old life. He had heard God's call and felt the weight of delivering his people from slavery. Filled with newfound purpose, he prepared to leave Midian and journey back to Egypt, ready to confront Pharaoh and lead the Israelites to freedom. As Moses bid farewell to his former life as a simple shepherd, he carried with him the knowledge that he wasn't just an ordinary man. He was chosen by God for an extraordinary mission. The burning bush had not only revealed God's presence, but ignited a fire of faith within him. With the staff as his symbol of authority and Aaron by his side for support, Moses stepped into his destiny. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but he knew he wasn't alone. God was with him. So there you have it, the incredible story of Moses and the burning bush. This biblical narrative not only recounts an epic encounter between a man and God, but also offers timeless lessons for us today. First and foremost, it reminds us that God can be found in the most ordinary and unexpected places. The burning bush wasn't a majestic mountaintop or a grand temple, but a simple bush in the desert. It teaches us to be attentive to God's presence in our everyday lives and to recognize that sanctity can be present in the mundane. Secondly, the story shows that God often calls ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. Moses wasn't a powerful ruler or a respected leader, but a shepherd who felt inadequate. This encourages us to remember that we don't need special backgrounds or qualifications to be used by God. Our willingness and faith are more important. Next, the story emphasizes the transformative power of God's presence in our lives. When Moses encountered God in the burning bush, his life was forever changed. God's presence had the ability to ignite faith, courage, and a sense of purpose. Lastly, the account reminds us of the holiness of God and the reverence he deserves. Moses was instructed to remove his sandals as a sign of respect because the ground where he stood was holy. This teaches us to approach God with reverence and acknowledge his transcendence in our lives. As we conclude this journey through the story of Moses and the burning bush, I encourage you to reflect on these profound lessons and consider how they apply to your own walk with God. Embrace the possibility of God's presence in your everyday life. Be open to answering his call. Allow God's presence to transform you and approach God with reverence and respect. Remember, just like Moses, you may encounter moments in your life that challenge your faith and test your beliefs. Yet through it all, hold fast to your convictions and trust in God's guidance and strength. Well friends, we've reached the end of our video. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the remarkable story of Moses and the burning bush. I hope you found this video insightful and inspiring. Before we part ways, I want to invite you to continue your spiritual journey with us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more enriching content. Also, we'd love to hear from you. What resonated with you the most from the story of Moses and the burning bush? Share your thoughts in the comments below.